Hey guys, so I've gotten a few questions about my color grading, so I decided to make a tutorial video for you. This is my first tutorial, so be a little patient with me. If there's anything that you think I could improve, then go ahead and let me know. So I'm going to be using some free LUTs I found provided by this guy, Tim Brunkhorst. Go ahead and go to his channel, give him a subscribe, and I'll put a link to his channel in the description. I'll also put a link to the download link for the LUTs that he gave us. So you're going to be in Adobe Premiere and you're going to have your video nice and rolled out in there. The first thing I do to my videos, straight out of camera, it's pretty okay, but I typically, because I'm shooting on a DSLR and I don't have that much of a high dynamic range, I take my contrast on my original video and I actually turn it down -100 all the way because I just want to get as flat as possible to color grade it. So turn your contrast down, get yourself an adjustment layer, throw it on top of your video. And then you're going to want to edit on your adjustment layer, not on your original video, because you could ruin it on your adjustment layer. So you can always go back in case you make a mistake, just like I do. So I'm going to be using the LUT long way. That's a pretty good LUT. It's looking pretty good for this video. I never put my intensity at 100. It's too intense. I typically have it between 60 and maybe like 90 at the highest. 90 is pretty high too. For this one, let's go around maybe like the 80s range. That's pretty good. I found that one of the best ways to mimic the whole film, the cinematic look, is you take your blacks and you just try to darken them a little. You know, that gives you a better film look, just like Hollywood, just like they had when they shot on real film. Everything was darker. And then my highlights, I almost always turn them down. I don't always turn them down all the way, but often I turn them down pretty low because my highlights are I'm shooting on a cheap DSLR, you know? My highlights are never good. Turn my shadows up. Basically what I'm doing right here is just basic exposure. We've already got our LUT thrown on there. That's giving you your colors. So I'm just trying to get my image to look right, you know? Maybe give it a little bit of a higher exposure. 0.4, that's a pretty good place for it to sit for now. Whites are a little white, I guess. Let's give it a warmer color. I like that kind of autumny sunset look. That's pretty decent right there. What else could we do to make this better? I think, maybe give it a little bit more contrast. I know I removed the contrast earlier, but that was to help us get a better view of what we're doing, help us actually throw in the colors without just mauling your video. So you can see it's turning out pretty decently so far. There's the original, and then here's what it looks like currently, but I think we can still do better. Your skin tones are pretty important. They're typically sitting in the orange range, so I like to go to my mid-tones, throw a little bit more orange in there. That helps give just a real subtle look of the person's face standing out a little bit. That looks pretty good. Your shadows, sometimes I like to throw blues into the shadows just to help give it that, you know, that orange and teal look. It doesn't always work for what you're doing. You can't just do orange and teal for everything, but for this case, I'll throw a little bit in there. Very subtle in this case, but it'll do with us. Highlights, because I'm going for that autumn look, I'll throw a bit more orange in there. So still a little bit dark, so maybe I want to go in there, kick the exposure up just a notch, and that, you know, that's pretty okay for us for now. Maybe our saturation, I typically like to saturate mine a little bit more, and that gives you just a little bit more color. It gives you a little bit, you know, it's a little fancy, it's a little pleasing to the eye. There we go, right there. Full screen it. It's looking pretty okay. Maybe if we go down to the KERS, sometimes you can see that on the face some reds come out a little bit, especially when you're throwing just a ton of color in there. So I like to go to the red area, take a little bit of the saturation down just a bit, and that takes away the very subtle pinks and reds that come out in a face. I definitely like to push, like I said, my oranges just a little bit more because that's where our skin tones lie. It's kind of a subtle look. You don't always notice it, but it helps just a little bit. In this case, it did a little bit more to the background. But, you know, that's okay. We're going for that autumn look anyway. What I typically do from here, saturation's looking okay, is I'll go back to our editing version. You can do Alt-Shift, I think it's 6, at least that's the preset shortcut. That's how you get to your editing. I'll go to my video effects. I typically like to add a little bit more sharpness just because, like I said, I'm shooting on a DSLR. I'm not getting that great of a quality. Unsharp mask. I'll typically do it around maybe a 2.0 radius, and the amount, let's go up, 100's really high, so is 90, but I typically like to sit at around 90s because most people are watching on their phones. They're not going to see too much of, you know, a bad sharpness. That's looking pretty decent. You can see it's sharpened our image up just enough to be, you know, nice and clear to us, nice and sharp. Sometimes when you turn up the sharpness, it'll mess with your colors just a little bit, not always. It looks like it didn't really mess with us too much this time. Let's see, let's go back to our color area. And now that we're doing that, let's see if there's anything else we can do. I've already got all the reds down there. So our colors are looking pretty solid right now. Would I say they could be a little bit brighter of a video? Yeah, but this is pretty good for a quick tutorial. So you want to, you know, render your video, and then you'll see what it looks like just when it's done. So let's let it render real quick. All right, so now that it's all rendered, we can kind of give it a look, preview it. I think it's looking pretty good. It's a little, you know, it's a little messy. I could do better, but I tried to get this done as quickly as I could. I hope that you guys will go into a little bit more detail for your own video, but that's basically all I have for you. So if there's anything that you think I missed, anything that was a little bit too fast, I can always go back into more detail for you in the future. Just go ahead and let me know. Like I said, this is my first tutorial, so, you know, let me know how I'm doing. If you guys like it, go ahead and like and subscribe.